Yeah, what is up guys, and welcome to another boat engine vlog. Again, we're in the dark. This hopefully should be the last one. I don't think I'm going to do any more after this. Again, I'm going to try my best to kind of do them during the day, because even though it's kind of cool, like kind of having like a night conversation, like it's not cool in terms of watching it back, right? It's like really dark and murky. But in this entry, I want to talk about an extension on, again, something that I've talked about recently, which is like ownership of your experience, right? And this also kind of goes back to ownership of, let's see, ownership of your experiences and ownership of your identity, right? Just as a quick recap, in one of my recent entries, which was, talking about this, talk about how we trust in the experience, right? So, we trust in our desire, we trust in our feeling, we go in the direction of our joy, of our desire. But then if things don't go right, then, or whatever decision, happens, whatever decision we make, whatever outcome, we own it, right? Whether that means, finding a way to appreciate the outcome, or to it is, so whatever decision kind of arises, or whatever outcome arises, then we basically just go with it, right? Because a lot of us, when we make decisions or whatever it is, we're kind of very half-assed about it, right? It's like, it's a typical thing where, you have to make a decision. Typically, one decision is right, and one decision is kind of like the cheating way, which is like the kind of like self-indulgent way, And this I go back to my previous entry, which was about contradictory complementaries, right? Which talks about, you have a higher perspective, which is what you should do, which is aligned with like your long-term goals, where you want to get to. But then there is also, like something that is, to do with your feeling, your physical feeling, which is more down to earth, more in the moment, and so, a lot of us, we kind of whatever decision we make is like, oh man, whereas what I'm kind of advocating here is that, when you make a decision, for example, if you manage to do something that is in line with something that you plan to do, like an ideal, for example, towards growing your career, or whatever it is, personal development, you kind of do it. And you kind of focus on the kind of progress that you're making, for example. You do it and you're like, wow, I'm really making progress in this area, right? I'm really kind of forging my life here, and just do it, right? Or if indeed, you kind of flop, and you end up eating donuts. That's my kind of example of choice. Just be okay, well, donuts are delicious, right? They may not be healthy, but they're delicious, and I enjoy myself when I have them, right? And again, this kind of all goes into the kind of the practice of allowing yourself, right? Which is yes, which means kind of slowly building trust in your own desire, and that kind of thing. Yeah, so it's, really putting your kind of needs first, right? Because a lot of people say that, but honestly, what does it mean? It means, well, I guess you could say that it means, in terms of the first kind of your long-term perspective, it's a long-term perspective that's actually aligned with what you actually believe in, your own values, and how you think you can contribute to the world in a positive way. And the kind of lifestyle that you want ultimately, and then for the personal stuff, it's learning to trust that what your body needs in the moment is right, and that it's not evil or wrong or weird, and the more that you do this, like the more that these two areas feed into each other, right? You know, like the more that you're like, you know, these kind of like values of like, you know, like helping the world and like making a difference and like providing value and all of this stuff will become more and more aligned with actually what you feel, you know, your desire and everything like that. And that is kind of like the kind of like approach to like forging your own life that I, you know, like espouse, you could say. But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so ownership of yourself and well, ownership of your experiences and ownership of your identity, right? And this is kind of, yeah, so, and this basically, as I said, it ties into the whole allowing yourself thing, right? Because again, we tend to have this very kind of like, well, someone like me, for example, has this very kind of forward, like, you know, far into the future kind of like vision of like how I am, you know, how my life will be. I'll have so many cool friends that really resonate with me, and like I'll be doing this with my life that's really cool, you know. I'll be like doing all of these things that like that are good for me, even though I may not necessarily be doing them now or have any real interest in doing them, right? Because again, I guess this just should have been in the last entry, but like I'm just kind of warming up, I guess, the more that I talk. But it's like, you know, yeah. So the more that you kind of juggle between like these two, like your ideals, your values, and then like how you feel, right? The more that you basically come to kind of understand them, right? So, and the more that like your rhythm kind of builds, like, you know, like, because a lot of us who live kind of very chaotic lives, like, you know, for example, like we're kind of not very like, for example, we can't wake up on time. You know, we're not good with deadlines. We're always late. You know, we're always kind of fucking up in some way. Like, even when you try to do something, you don't, like, you fail to do it. Like, you know, you spend your time just like fucking around and doing like shit all basically, and like not being very productive in your life. And at the same time, you're stressing yourself out, right? Well, the more that you kind of explore this kind of like owning your experience, so like either kind of like just, okay, like putting some time into doing work and like sharpening like your kind of career focus, you could say, or like, you know, whatever it is, your purpose focus, and also at the same time kind of like really delving into your desire with no judgments. You know, if you want to eat a donut, whatever it is. You want to play games, you know, you want to watch a video. The more that basically you will start to establish your own rhythm, right? And like the easier, like the more kind of intuitive life becomes, right? So like, again, you know, I threw this idea at you in one of my previous entries, which is that well, or did I actually? But in any case, like, yeah, I don't think I did actually, but like, there's a famous Einstein saying, which is, you can't solve a problem at the same paradigm at which you envisaged it, right? With which you envisaged it. So, basically, once you start to kind of get this rhythm thing going, like, you know, your life will get better. You know, you will get better at like waking up at time. You will get better at, you know, hitting deadlines or whatever it is, right? You will become a more effective person because you're tapping into your own rhythm, right? And you know, particularly for those of us who don't jive well with like the prescribed rhythm, which is like to get up at a certain time and like to do things at a certain time, like we need to really tap into our own rhythm, you know, of living. You know, I am very much someone who walks by the beat of his own drum. Like, you know, I really like kind of just having, like, doing things at my own pace, because I have my own unique rhythm, and I'm most effective when I'm just free to, like, be able to, like, tap into my own rhythm and not have to kind of, like, you know, go under someone else's rhythm, basically, that they gave me, because that's bullshit, right? So anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so kind of along this journey of improving your life, personal development, or whatever it is, right? There is one way that we think that we're going to get there, which is to kind of essentially force ourselves to get things done, right? So, for example, like, not very long ago, like, I was trying to force myself to eat healthy by forcing myself to not eat junk food whenever I had the craving to eat junk food, right? And nowadays, I still occasionally do that. I still kind of, like, exercise my willpower and like, stop myself from, like, for example, going to, like, a fast food restaurant and eating there. But nowadays, I trust in my body more. So, like, if I actually want to eat some junk food, I will eat some junk food, right? I kind of like balance this by also kind of like making sure that I eat enough, like, kind of like raw vegetables, for example, and things like that, fruits. But at the same time, but after that, you know, after I've, you know, eaten everything that I should eat, then I let myself kind of, like, you know, if I really want to eat something, I let myself eat it, right? Or whatever it is, right? And the reason that a lot, you know, this kind of approach fails a lot of the time is because we're trying to approach it from a way that's unnatural. And what I mean by this is that, like, we're trying to, like, force ourselves based on some abstract kind of visualization of how we think that we should, you know, get, like, what approach we should adopt to get to our end goal. And half the times our end goal is kind of bullshit anyway. It's like something that we think we should need, something that we saw someone else having, and like, oh, maybe I want that. You know, oh, like, this person's a millionaire, maybe I want to be a millionaire, because that'd be cool, right? You know? But actually, what is to me anyway, I'm just discovering this now, so this is kind of, like, for me, really cutting edge, is like, you know, like, I now kind of, I have my vision, you know, I have where I want to get to, you know, but at the same time, now I've started to really delve into my desires, right? Whatever it is, right? So, for example, right, recently I started streaming video games, right? You know, I literally just started, like, a couple of days ago. And the reason I'm doing this is because I've always had this love-hate relationship with video games. Because video games are a very personal love of mine. But at the same time, I recognize that, you know, like, video games are an escapist medium. And they don't really, like, contribute. You know, like, I can imagine a point, you know, there are many times, you know, there were times when I went cold turkey from, like, you know, video games, things like that. Where I knew that at some point, perhaps, you know, again, this is, like, I felt that maybe I will need to grow out of them to something else, you know, to graduate from them. But but that being the case, right, you know, and after that I tried, like, many times just, like, forcing myself, like, and feeling guilty every time, you know, I play games or whatever it was, you know, like, oh man, I'm playing games, you know, video games are bad, you know, they're not productive, they're setting me back, you know, I could be using this time to do something more productive, like doing vlog entries, or, like, you know, writing my ideas down or whatever it is, learning my piano, doing music compositions and things like that. But you know what, like, I finally realized that, you know what, there's no way around this, you know, like, it's a love of mine, and I want to kind of face it. But at the same time, also, like, with all of the awareness that I have, like, I now know, like, that, well, if anything, like, I now realize that maybe I was holding myself back all this time, you know. The truth is that I have this love for video games. I've always had a love for video games. but I've always kept that to myself and been ashamed of it and everything. And to an extent, I still am ashamed of it, you know. Like, again, you know, when people say that, you know, video games are useless, you know, like, or like, you know, like, people who play video games are all these, like, you know, I don't want to be disrespectful here, but, like, you know, like, fat nerds, like, with no social skills. And it's like, that kind of stuff hits me and it hurts me. But, like, at the same time, as much as, like, I kind of don't want that image of myself, you know, and, like, I also want to honor that, you know, like in my vlog entries like, you know, that I've done recently. Like, I've really just started to realize that, you know what, it's time for me to just, like, admit to myself and do something about it, you know, and stop shaming myself over it, right? And then, if I do that, I can actually now see that I will evolve gradually from it. So, like, one day I kind of see myself maybe, like, graduating from, like, my obsession with video games. You know, but first I need to go through that, and I need to honor it, because maybe I will meet some cool people, for example, through it. You know, maybe I can naturally meet people that I resonate with, you know, you know, as opposed to, like, you know, trying to stuff this down and, like, never meeting anyone that I resonate with, because, you know, like, again, I admit to myself that video games are a big part of my life, and, you know, and through this, you know, like, things will happen, right? This is how you move from playing video games and loving video games to becoming, like, a world leader, to becoming, like, whatever it is you envision yourself being in the future, because it means that it's not about the fucking video games, okay? It could be anything, you know. You could be obsessed with, like, sports, or, like, I don't know, professional poker, whatever the fuck it is, right? It doesn't actually matter. Like, what is important about this, again, like I said, is allowing yourself. It is allowing your desire to evolve, because when you were like me, shaming yourself and not putting that desire into the world and stuffing it down, and, you know, then you are literally stopping yourself from evolving. You're literally stopping yourself from, like, experiencing joy. And so in my case, I'm like, you know what, fuck it, right? So yeah, so that's kind of my own personal example. So yeah, you know, like, really, like, the reason why you do, like, because it's like, you know, in my example again, it's like, you know, I'm not an avid reader, and yet I kind of want to make writing one of my kind of main vehicles to success, right? And, like, even now, like, I kind of dread reading sometimes, you know, like, it's like I have to sit down and, like, focus on these words. But you know what? Maybe if I, like, kind of let myself, like, do this video game thing, and, like, I kind of keep feeding into my desire, I keep kind of trusting in myself, trusting that no matter, like, that whatever is coming up will lead to the natural evolution of my desire. Again, you know, given that I keep myself focused, and, like, I do employ my willpower at times, you know, as long as I keep moving forwards, right? You know, like, one day maybe I will start to like reading, you know, and, you know, like, you know, I'm not like a super social person right now, but maybe one day if I keep, like, feeding into my desires, then I will start to become social, right? You know, like, all of these things that I was trying to force myself to get to, you know, like, perhaps if I just let life happen, if I just let myself go through my desires, if I just stop, like, shaming myself and, like, trapping myself and letting other people do that to me, you know, because everyone feels fucking trapped in society, right? Then maybe all of those things will just naturally happen, because I do have a desire for those things, but, like, it's not my immediate desire, right? But maybe the way to get there is to just let the desire evolve and to allow myself, and then the universe will then start to, like, evolve you, Like you will start to evolve, right? So cool. Like that was my entry. My camera's about to die. I feel that as though I've kind of been like mumbling and not being the most coherent in this entry, but you know, whatever. You know, I was real. You know, I talked about my own stuff. Yeah, I'm just tired, man. I'm just tired. I've been working a lot recently. But anyway, I hope that was helpful, and there will be more of these to come. Like I'm gonna try and like sharpen these up, and like, you know, there will be a point where I go back to all of my old content, all of my old ideas, and start to like kind of structure my ideas so that they're more coherent and everything. But like at the moment, I'm just kind of doing these vlog entries just because I want to talk and give my ideas, you know, give my perspective, and share. Really, you know, sharing is important. You know, express yourself, right? Express yourself, express your ideas, express your desire, right? So cool. This has been Bo. I hope that was helpful, insightful, inspiring. You know, so cool. I will catch you guys in the next entry. Peace out. Whoosh.